This is Lessons in Leadership. I don't need to look at the teleprompter. I know what it is. It's Lessons in Leadership. Steve Adubato with my colleague, Mary Gamba. Mary, listen, we're taping on April the 2nd. It'll be seen later. Are we discussing allergies for 30 minutes? Is that what we're doing?
That sounds like a perfect plan between the two of us, with the eyes tearing and the nose running. And as we're recording, the entire state of New Jersey is in the red zone in terms of allergies. So we'll make it through, though, because it's all about having a positive attitude.
I wonder if this is distracting.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But let's talk about serious things. This is part of our Discovering Innovation in New Jersey series. We are joined by Dr. Brian Sandroff, who's Assistant Director, Center for Neuropsychology and Neuroscience Research at Kessler Foundation. Good to see you, Doctor.
You too, Steve. Nice to see you, Mary. I hope allergies aren't too bad today.
No, we're hanging in. By the time this show airs, the pollen count will be down, so we're all good. Hey, Brian, tell everyone what the center is while we put up the website for Kessler Foundation.
So our center focuses on research that looks at cognition in people with neurological disorders, such as multiple sclerosis, traumatic brain injury are the two primary disorders that we study. But we look at different predictors of cognitive performance. We look at different treatments for cognitive impairment, as well as a number of other intervention-related approaches to see if we can make people who have MS or TBI live a better life.
Now, again, I met Brian several years ago. Our company, Stand and Deliver, works hand in hand with Kessler Foundation. We're doing a leadership academy up there now, and Brian is part of that. And one of the things that always struck me is your passion for this work. Before Mary jumps in, talk about how you were led to this field and why it matters so much to you and the colleagues at the center.
So, funny story actually is that it happened by accident. So I was in undergraduate at University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in the middle of nowhere, Illinois, and I was a pre-med major. And turned out that wasn't the greatest decision I ever made, considering that I was pretty bad at molecular genetics and biology. But I was always a big sports fan. So I switched to kinesiology, which is the study of human movement and is kind of an intersection between sports and science. And the first course I took, which was Intro to Sports Psychology, ended up being not at all about sports psychology, but instead about how to answer a research question from a randomized controlled trial point of view. And I was hooked. And I went up to the professor after and said, hey, how do I get involved in this? This is the coolest thing ever. And he said, well, why don't you work in my lab? I said, okay, do you have an opening next semester? And he said, no, I have an opening tomorrow. And his lab was all about measuring physical activity, applying physical activity in people with multiple sclerosis. So my undergraduate training, my master's training, my doctoral training, and then even my postdoctoral training has all been about examining exercise as a way to improve brain health in people with MS. And just recently, as part of the Center for Neuropsychology and Neuroscience at Kessler Foundation, have expanded to look at other populations like traumatic brain injury and people with stroke just very recently.
Fascinating. Again, the website will be up to find out more about Kessler Foundation and the center. Mary, please.
Brian, Steve and I talk a lot about wellness and leadership, and I'm hearing you talk about your own personal innovation and how that innovation has really helped patients. Can you tie that back to wellness? What is the connection in your mind between wellness, leadership, and innovation, and improving the lives of the patients that you're treating every day?
So, nice thing about physical activity as a treatment for all sorts of symptoms and consequences of neurological disorders is that patients can do it themselves. They may need a little bit of guidance in terms of what to do, how to do it, how often to do it, how intense exercise or physical activity should be to get beneficial effects. But at the end of the day, us as researchers, we're looking to put ourselves out of business, really, where we would love to have people who present with symptoms of MS and TBI be able to engage in physical activity based on guidelines where they can self-manage their disease and they can live
Hold on,
better.
Brian, do me a favor. Brian, go back. TBI, you use that acronym a lot. That traumatic brain injury?
Correct. Sorry, I didn't define that.
That's okay.
Yes, traumatic brain injury. Thank you. Where people follow guidelines that are strongly supported by research, they can do something good for themselves. And I mean, we're all interested in this area where we can continue to come up with research questions that help people that get at more precise approaches, such as who benefits the most from exercise, what intensity of exercise or dose is the right dose for specific benefits. But in terms of our leadership, we are absolutely committed to providing the highest quality research that helps the most people. And we're also very competitive, is that's really the standard we hold ourselves to, is
Against
how
whom?
can we help the most people?
Brian, competitive against whom? With whom?
Ourselves. With
So
ourselves.
Mary, isn't that interesting? An internal competition to help others. I've never heard it put that way. But I'm curious about this. Since we talk an awful lot about leadership, and this series about leadership and innovation and discovering innovation, do you, and I've asked this in certain seminars, and I'm curious, Mary, together with me, we've done this as well. Do you see yourself as a researcher / scientist, as a leader?
Sort of. So I don't really see myself personally as someone who needs to be a mouthpiece for things, but I consider our work to be leading the field. As we're always on the forefront, we're trying to ask the tough questions. We're trying to do things the right way, which sometimes can seem pretty incremental. But at the end of the day, that's how you generate really strong evidence that ends up helping people, as opposed to shooting first and asking questions later.
I think, Mary, would you disagree? Because Brian framed it about speaking up. You and I have this discussion all the time about what leadership really is, and sometimes it's not the person who's clearly the loudest in the room. Final question, Mary?
Exactly, Brian. I was just going to do a bridge from that because I picked up on that as well. What do you believe is your role as a leader, bringing other people up at Kessler Foundation? What do you see as your role leading, coaching, mentoring others on your team?
So I see two things primarily. First, getting people excited about what we do, getting people to buy in to what we do. And then second, I believe that once that buy-in is established, people hold themselves to a really high standard because they always understand what it is they're trying to do and why it's important. And if they can do those two things, or even speak about them in a seminar or in a presentation, I think they're doing a good job.
Brian, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, but I do want to disagree with you. You are, and your colleagues are, leaders. You just are. I've known and worked with you and your colleagues for a long time. You're making a difference and helping other people and leading the way in that regard. Dr. Brian Sandroff from Kessler Foundation, part of our Discovery and Innovation in New Jersey series. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Mary. Have a great rest of your day.
You got it. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This edition of Lessons in Leadership is made possible by the Buccino Leadership Institute at Seton Hall University, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 825, the North Ward Center, the New Jersey Sharing Network, the Helix, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, Fedway Associates Inc., Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Veolia, Resourcing the World, Choose New Jersey, and Seton Hall University, showing the world what great minds can do since 1856.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
Promotional support for this edition of Lessons in Leadership with me, Steve Adubato, and my colleague Mary Gamba has been provided by NJ.com, NJBIA and New Jersey Business Magazine, CIANJ and Commerce Magazine, and the Meadowlands Chamber and Meadowlands Media.
Life is unpredictable. Health insurance shouldn't be. For over 90 years, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey has provided quality, affordable health plans to New Jersey residents. We have served generations of New Jersey families and businesses and are committed to driving innovations that put you at the heart of everything we do. Our members are our neighbors, our friends, and our families. We're here when you need us most. Horizon, proud to be New Jersey.
Lessons in Leadership would like to thank our newest sponsors who make our programming possible, including the Helix, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Steve Adubato with my colleague Mary Gamba. We're now joined by Kathryn Badger, That name sounds familiar. Kathryn Badger is Director, Total Rewards at CentraState Healthcare System. Kathryn, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Steve.
Now, Kathryn, on our broadcast, we disclose all kinds of things that are potentially perceived as a conflict or an issue. Do you, in fact, I mean, I feel like a prosecutor right now, do you have a relationship with a very high-level executive on our production team?
I do.
Would that be Elvin Badger, our director?
It would, Your Honor.
Oh, hold on. Before we talk about serious leadership issues, what makes Elvin not just a great leader, but a great husband and father?
Ooh, he sees things, I want to say he sees like the big picture of everything. He's always like 10 steps ahead of all of us, and he really keeps us, I don't want to say in check, but yes, he helps keep me grounded, keep us all kind of in check. He's amazing.
Wow.
Oh.
Could you get my wife here and ask her the same question?
It depends on what day it is, right, Steve?
Yeah, no, what hour it is. Kathryn, tell us about the work you do and how it's connected to leadership.
Sure. So I am the Director of Total Rewards, and I am the lead for strategy, communications, and compliance for benefits, compensation, and also retirement plans, things like that for our employees. So in that respect, I have to lead that function and our team to really be able to bring the best in class things and benefits and comp and, everything for our employees.
Kathryn, before Mary's going to jump in a second, but Mary, this is interesting. Mary and our 9-10 person team and our production team at the Caucus Educational Corporation, Mary is not only the executive director, but she's the de facto head of HR, meaning we don't have an official HR department. I'm curious about this. HR has evolved dramatically in the last 5-10 years. It's a very different function. How so?
I think we've really brought a more, I would like to say, humanity to it again. I think they put the human back in human resources, especially after the pandemic. We really had to take a step back and realize that these are not just worker bees. These are people with home lives and parents and children, or even, loneliness issues at home. So I think everyone had to take a step back and bring wellness to the forefront, which has been a huge factor since the pandemic, really bringing everyone's mental health, emotional, physical, full body health to the forefront and in the workplace as well.
So important. Mary, please.
Kathryn, how have you found you needed to adapt post-pandemic, but just even in general over, as Steve said, the past decade, when it comes to the needs, the wants? I've read a lot of studies, especially tied to the work that we're doing, that what employers may think that the employees want may not necessarily be in direct correlation with what those employees are looking for. So have you found a top 1, 2, 3, I'm a new employee coming in, I'm sitting in front of you, I'm looking for a job. Tell us what is most important to employees in 2024.
I think while we think or we know compensation is important, but also I think feeling valued is huge these days. Adding value, making sure that what I do as a person, as an employee here, is adding value to the company, that it's recognized. And I think also we sometimes as employers, as bosses, forget that employees want to know that there is a future for them, that there's growth happening here, and that I can be whoever I want to be, or there's pathways, some kind of succession, something that I can do in the future.
Mary, follow up on that, because there's an expression, I stole it, and I always forget to cite where it comes from. It's a quote from Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. Mary, you ever hear me say it's hire slow, fire what?
Oh, hire slow, fire fast. Yes, we've had Steve and I have worked together now going on 24 years. And I like to bring that up mainly because, again, Kathryn, as you were just talking about, Steve has been very flexible, very giving when it comes to requests for what each of our team members needs. But even despite of that, sometimes people leave. Sometimes you bring somebody on board and they're not the right fit. So that is something that Steve and I have talked about a long time, is we have to be much more intentional, much more very, very thoughtful as we're hiring new people. As you are hiring new people, for somebody watching this who's out there looking for a job, they've got their resume out there, what do you look for in that candidate that's saying, yeah, they are definitely CentraState material?
Or someone hiring. Both ways, right, Mary?
Exactly.
When we're hiring, I think we need to always focus on the full person and say, is this person our material? Is this person going to really add value? Are they going to be flexible? The people who say, well, that's not my job, that's not my function, that's not who you kind of want to hire.
We've been there before, Kathryn, and that does not. I love one time years and years ago, I'll withhold names. I had said to one of our team members, I said, oh, would you, I really need some help with XYZ project. And I remember he said at the time, he was like, well, how much more am I going to get in order to be doing that? And that was just the wrong answer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are thinking that way. And I always say, I go back to when I first started in HR, I got well, back then they didn't call it this, but stretch assignment. It had nothing to do with my job. It came from the head of HR, and I had to figure out how to solve this problem. And I figured it out. And I think that's what really boosted me in my career in HR, is always saying yes, always would be willing to learn, always wanting to grow. And I think that's the best kind of candidate to hire in any field, in any company, any industry.
Let me make this really tough on you, okay? So there's a chapter, I'm very uncomfortable promoting my book, but in this book, Lessons in Leadership 2.0, the tough stuff, there's a chapter, and it asks a question, but in the chapter, I try to answer the question, and the question is everyone a leader? And I make the argument that everyone on a great team, not a mediocre or average team, on a great team, everyone has to be a leader of some sort, regardless of their title, regardless of their position or their place in an org chart. Do you believe that everyone needs to be a leader of some sort, or can we be the best as an organization with people who do and wait to be told what to do? I know that's complicated, but I think about that all the time.
Oh, I love that. I think I never thought of it that way, but now that you mention it, I think we all can be leaders, even, on great teams. I'll even say mediocre teams, because even if you're not leading people, you can lead a project. You can lead
yourself.
You can lead yourself. Very good point. You being proactive and doing your job. You don't have to wait for me to tell you what to do. So yeah, that's a great point. Anyone can be a leader. We all have it in us to do it. We just have to bring it out each day and be intentional to do the work.
Mary, do you think we can get Kathryn to work with us? No, I'm sorry.
That was all part of our master plan. Don't tip your cards.
But Mary, how many times have we had people say, I'm not, see, Kathryn said it's in someone, but it's our job as leaders at whatever the means at the top of an organization to bring it out in people. How many times have we have people either say or imply, don't try to make me a leader.
Exactly. It happens all the time.
Wow, that's unfortunate. To your point, we all have it in us. We can do it. We just have to want to.
Yeah. A quick follow-up on that, Kathryn. When it comes to leadership, and again, I feel like, sorry, this is another somewhat loaded, tough question, but do you believe that men and women lead differently, or that we need, because you're a woman leader in healthcare, I'm a woman leader on our team, do you feel like we have to lead differently? Is there a difference between the way that men and women have to approach their leadership style?
Ooh, good question.
What program do you think you came on to, Kathryn? It's nothing.
I know. I should have known better. I hear you all the time, and I hear you guys.
Kathryn, we have nothing but hard questions. I just don't have any answers. Go ahead, men and women in leadership.
I don't think they do lead differently. I'm trying to think over time how my leaders have led me and helped me to become a leader and to be able to do my best. And no, I think everyone kind of comes from, again, a place of humanity. As long as we can remember that we're all human and we're trying to do our best and we want to learn, men and women can do the same type of leadership or have the same type of leadership style, in my experience.
Well said. Let's do this. Kathryn, stay right there. I want to thank you officially for joining us, but is it possible to bring in someone behind the scenes who is directing the show as we speak right now? Kathryn Badger, our director. Alvin, can you come in right now? Yeah, you knew this was going to happen anyway, Alvin, so don't act like you didn't know. Alvin? I asked,
I'm still trying to make sure. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
oh, sorry, what, multitasking is not in your job description? So,
Okay.
Alvin, I asked Kathryn about you, what makes you a great husband, father, leader? A great wife, mother, person, leader for your wife, for Kathryn.
Oh, I'm very lucky to have married Kathryn and to have met her. I don't think we work. I think we work side by side. I push her, she pushes me. She's pushed me in my career, I've pushed her in her career. We raised the kids together. We're always on the same page most of the time when it comes to the kids. Most of the times, I'm the easier parent. She's the one who's a little more stricter than I am. But I think that we make a great team.
And dare I ask, in our home, there's one CEO, and I know it's not me.
It's not.
And
It's not me. It's not me.
you're not. Hold on, Mary and I have worked with organizations where there are co-CEOs, and I never am convinced that co-quarterbacking or CEOs work. Are you Kathryn? Co-CEOs of the home?
He's COO. I'm the CEO, and he's the COO.
That's perfect. I love that
He
analogy.
ensures our operations are 100%, and I just kind of help lead that, ensure that we're going to the goal.
I'll tell you a quick story, Steve. I was in the mall with my sons this weekend, and I was looking to go buy a new iPhone. I said, you know what? I think it's time to buy a new phone. And then my son was like, you better call mom. And I was like, what do you mean? I have a job. I make my own money. He was like, you better call mom. When you come home, you better call mom.
I love that.
It is.
So you know who the CEO is.
Yeah, the COO has to check with the CEO. And in our company, Mary, I've gone from being the CEO to working for you somehow. I don't even know how that happened.
Oh, only on certain days, Steve. Most days you're the leader. Sometimes I just need to nudge you a little bit.
Yes. Well, listen, Kathryn, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure this was not what you expected when we asked you to join us, but you've been
Great.
We learned from you. We enjoyed having you, and you're welcome back on our series anytime. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
And thank you for Alvin. We'll be back. I don't know if that makes any sense, but we'll be back after this.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com.
Promotional support for this edition of Lessons in Leadership with me, Steve Adubato, and my colleague Mary Gamba has been provided by NJ.com, NJBIA and New Jersey Business Magazine, CIANJ and Commerce Magazine, and the Meadowlands Chamber and Meadowlands Media. Lessons in Leadership would like to thank our newest sponsors who make our programming possible, including The Helix, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. All right, back with Mary Gamba, Lessons in Leadership. Mary, tell folks, do we ever talk about what we're going to talk about?
Never. And I love it. My dad, your mom, my dad, I think I told you this. My dad, every single weekend on Sunday, he has his little sticky note and he writes down, stuff about our conversation, about the guests, things he likes, things he doesn't like. And he always says, he's like, you guys are not scripted. And I'm like, no, we are not scripted. And it's just because we're awesome like that. So thank you, Dad. And thank you, friend, for watching every Sunday and Saturday.
She makes it sound like there are two people watching. So hold on,
there
you
are
ready?
two favorite guests who are watching.
Hold on, ready? Let's do this. Mary, as we speak, I was just talking earlier, we're taping on the 2nd of April, be seen later. Alvin is a sports fan, Scarlett is, Frank is, I am. Mary is not into sports, she likes hockey. So
that hurts. That is like a dagger.
No, I'm joking. It's a sport, I know. So hold on. Basketball, March Madness. We're on the back end. We don't know how things are going to play out. Where am I going with this? Okay, so we recently had an interview with Coach Bob Hurley of the legendary St. Anthony's basketball team. St. Anthony's doesn't exist anymore. Chasing Perfect, one of the greatest basketball coaches and leaders of all time. Check out our interview with Coach Hurley. His son, Danny Hurley, right now as we speak, attempting, we don't know how it's going to play out, to win back-to-back with the University of Connecticut championships in college basketball. What does that have to do with this discussion on leadership? In a recent interview, and we're going to get Danny Hurley on after, no matter what happens in this season, we'll get him on. Mary, his thing Danny Hurley says the reason his team has been so successful, one of the biggest reasons is they fight against being complacent. They fight against complacency. They fight against we're good. Translation, they're always striving for In Search of Excellence, 1984, Tom Peters and Robert Waterman, a classic leadership book. They don't find perfection. Mary, I got my other book here by Dr. Bob Rotella, Golf is Not a Game of Perfect, all right? But he's searching for excellence, and you cannot get complacent. Doesn't that make you crazy?
Not at all. If you are truly looking to grow, if you're truly, and again, speaking of hockey, just 2 days ago, Michigan State University was playing against University of Michigan for, they were in the top 16, then they go to the 8 and the Frozen Four. So they were playing against them. And let's face it, University of Michigan, if anybody does follow hockey, they were literally adapting in the moment. They had more life to them. They had more energy to them. And unfortunately, Michigan State University, they just didn't have that same level of get up and go. I don't know what you would call it.
Well, Mary's talking about, it's only unfortunate because Mary's son is connected. It's at Michigan State. It's not like she cares about them otherwise. Go ahead.
Oh, will you stop? Yes. So my son is graduating from there. I can't believe it. By the time this airs, he would have graduated. And go well. And go green. But yeah, and just you see it all the time. You see it in basketball, you see it in baseball. We were talking about the Yankees earlier today, and
It's early.
It is early.
That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm not going to jinx anything. What'd you call it? Yeah, it's some Italian name for it, for the jinx.
It's called the Maloika. Mary said, I didn't want to say what she said.
I won't even say, because then if you repeat it, it'll double Maloika or whatever you're saying.
The Maloika is, you know what it is? April, you know what it is? April, our great makeup artist, knows. It's the evil eye. It's bad luck.
Yeah.
Don't talk about what could happen, but go ahead.
But going back to what you were saying about, yes.
Complacency.
You cannot be complacent, whether at work, whether with your family, even in a relationship, right? We had Elvin on, we had Kathryn on, and they were talking about how they just rise each other up. They're constantly pushing each other, and it's that push and pull. And you need to constantly be combating against complacency and the status quo.
Here's the only catch. And trust me, Mary knows when I'm sending, we've talked about this a million times, I'm holding back sending certain weekend emails because things will come to me on the weekend. But then you
literally on your Monday morning, I held back sending this email, but here it is.
I know, that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is, it's not about me. It's that I'm always thinking, and Mary's always thinking about how we can be better, how our programming can be better, how we can find different kinds of guests, how we can create new mini-series, how we can find new funding sources. When you stop doing that and you actually believe you're good the way you are,
exactly,
you're dead. You're going backwards. And it's not about basketball, hockey, and PS. To my friend Kenny Danico, who's been on our program, a great, his jersey number 3, the Devils hangs in the Prudential Arena. I apologize. I joked it and I said, hockey, not a sport. It's a great sport. I just don't know how to skate. Bottom line is this. Complacency is your enemy. Always strive for excellence. Always strive for perfection, knowing you're not going to get there, but you may trip on excellence along the way. For Mary Gamba, for Elvin, Frank, Scarlin, April,
Amy,
Sylvester, Amy, a great team, always striving for excellence. This is not a complacent Lessons in Leadership team. We'll see you next time. This edition of Lessons in Leadership is made possible by the Buccino Leadership Institute at Seton Hall University, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 825, the North Ward Center, the New Jersey Sharing Network, the Helix, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, Fedway Associates Inc., Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Veolia, Resourcing the World, Choose New Jersey, and Seton Hall University, showing the world what great minds can do since 1856.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
Promotional support for this edition of Lessons in Leadership with me, Steve Adubato, and my colleague Mary Gamba has been provided by NJ.com, NJBIA and New Jersey Business Magazine, CIANJ and Commerce Magazine, and the Meadowlands Chamber and Meadowlands Media.